There is a lot going on with all your ladybits after childbirth. So in this video, I'm gonna run through my top 10 postpartum products that you need if you have a vaginal birth and if you want to breastfeed. I used all of these, so you're gonna get my honest opinion, and I'll also give you some tips along the way, especially on how to go about purchasing these because it can get quite expensive. I'm a 90s kid, so I wrote them all down. If there's one product that you absolutely need, it's the peri bottle. Honestly, your body will essentially heal itself on its own, you know, without all these fancy products that I'm going to talk about. But you will just dread going to the bathroom if you don't have the peri bottle. This is going to be number one on most women's list postpartum. To say that a peri bottle is essential is such an understatement. You want the one that is angled upwards or downwards, I guess, whatever. The hospital ones often are not tilted, and for having used both, I can tell you, you want the one that has the angle on it. So why is the peri bottle essential? So for first-time moms, upwards of like 70% will have some form of a perineal tear. Your perineum is the space between your vagina and your anus. So most are gonna require some form of stitching. So as you can imagine, when the urine passes over the wound, it burns. So what the peri bottle does is it kind of dilutes the urine as it passes over the stitch because you're spraying water on it at the same time. I had 2 tears. It was my first birth. I had 2 tears. I had a 1st degree and I had a 1st to 2nd degree tear. Like, she couldn't quite call it a 2nd degree, but I still got stitches, and let me tell you, the times that I didn't quite have time to fill up my peri bottle and I was just like, whatever, I'll just pee. Big mistake. So this brings me to my number 1 tip, which is to use room temperature water in your bottle. I thought cold water would feel good. Definitely not. Cold water just almost like jolted me out of my seat. So room temp water is the way to go. Next on the list is adult diapers and different sized sanitary pads. I used adult diapers, so like pull-ups basically, for about the first 48 hours after birth. So whether you have a C-section or a vaginal birth, you are gonna bleed. And I was actually shocked to see the amount of blood in the first couple of days postpartum. And nurses are going to be asking also, they're going to be asking you how much blood there is, and they measure that by how many pads and how many diapers you're changing. So for me, pull-ups was the way to go for the first 48 hours. There's just like so much going on in the first couple of days. I did not want to have to think about underwear and putting a pad on and sticking this on and taking it off. Literally, pull-ups, you just pull on, pull off. It was great. After about 48 hours, my bleeding slowed down just enough to sort of justify switching to one of those longer, big pads that, I mean, technically kind of feel like a diaper anyway, but anywho. So pick up a few sizes of pads also. You know, you don't need just the big ones. You'll go down to the smaller ones eventually. That kind of brings me to my tip number 2. Don't overbuy in this department. Maybe get a small pack of each and just see how your bleeding goes, because everyone is so different. I ended up spending a lot of money on these massive pads thinking I'm gonna need them for weeks, like for 2 weeks or something, but really I only needed the big ones for about 3-4 days. And then I was able to switch to some form of like a normal period pad. So just don't overspend or overbuy. Third on my list is the Freedomom ice pads. So depending on how long you push for, how much tearing you got going on down there, the feeling of cool is probably gonna feel really good, because chances are you're gonna be quite swollen down there. They're kind of similar to like a long, thick sanitary pad, but when you break the package, it becomes kind of like an ice pack without having to use the freezer. So those are great. Of course, the catch is that they are quite fancy and therefore they're very pricey. You can also make your own of these. I have a girlfriend who did that. There's some tutorials on how to do that online. You can just look it up on YouTube. Tip number 3 is gonna be for this product. So I would add a box of maybe 4 or 8 to your baby registry. And if you end up loving them and really needing them, then go ahead and, you know, order yourself some more once you deliver. Okay, number 4 are the Tux cleansing pads and the Frida Mom cooling wipes. I used both of these. They have witch hazel in them. So witch hazel is a plant that is known for its medicinal use, anti-inflammatory properties, antimicrobial properties. You'll notice on the top of the Tux packaging, it says to be used for hemorrhoids, which is another use for this product. What I did is after peeing and using my peri bottle, I would take the Tux pad and sort of wipe and clean myself with it. And then the Frida Mom cooling, like cleansing wipe, I would take one and I would line my pad with it. And it sort of stayed there until the next time that I changed my pad. And it felt really nice to have the cool feeling down there. 5th on my list are stool softeners and hemorrhoid cream. These are not necessarily things that you need to stock up on before. Just remember to ask for a prescription for them before you leave the hospital. Hemorrhoids are super normal after giving birth because of all the pressure down there. And if you end up having to push for a long time, likelihood is you'll have a hemorrhoid or two. I didn't personally have an issue with this. I also didn't really have a big tear, so I didn't need to take stool softeners for very long. I took them for about 3 to 4 days. But of course, every person is really different. So just kind of keep these on your radar. Some people even recommend taking stool softeners leading up to your birth. That's not something that I did personally, but that's what I've heard recommended also. I think my point with this one on my list is just remember to sort of think about it, have it in the back of your mind, and remember to ask for it when you leave the hospital. I have a couple girlfriends that this like saved them from going to the bathroom postpartum, so definitely highly recommended. I think we're gonna move on to the upper lady bits. So if you hope to breastfeed, these products are really going to come in handy. So the next few are for breastfeeding. So number 6 is Philips Avent disposable breastfeeding pads. You can also opt for the reusable ones of pretty much any brand. My milk started coming in on day 5 postpartum, and when it did, like it really did, and it's still like, when you're breastfeeding on one side, what you have on the other side is called letdown happening. So on the other side, like there's milk leaking. So you can definitely have a Haka milk collector there, but it's very useful to have a pad underneath for those times that you're out and about and you're breastfeeding and you don't have access to your Haka. So when you start breastfeeding, also for the first couple of weeks to months, for me anyway, between breastfeeding sessions, I was leaking like all the time. I was changing these pads every few hours. I used a lot of them. So my tip number 4, I actually started with the reusable ones originally, but there was so much milk and they actually got a lot more soaked than the disposable ones, I found. And even if I laid them out to dry before, like just dumping them in my laundry basket, or if I would just put them in the laundry, in the wash directly, I still find that after a while, they got like that gross kind of yeasty old towel smell. In all fairness, like maybe I was doing something wrong, but that was my experience with them. Plus, I do find that the disposable ones really just absorb a lot better than the reusable ones. The last 3 things on the list have to do with the fact that I really struggled with breastfeeding initially. I mean, you name it, like bad latch, bad position, cracked and bleeding nipples, a lot of pain, a lot of like 4 a.m. sobbing that I want to give up. For some reason, I, kept going. For some twisted reason, I didn't give up and I persisted, which I'm grateful for now, that I didn't quit, because breastfeeding has been really the absolute best for me. But the first 2 months to 2.5 months were like hell. It was hard. It was really hard. So I really don't wish that this is going to be your experience at all, but if you end up struggling even just a little bit with breastfeeding, these products are really going to help you. So the 7th thing on my list is all essentially the million different creams and butters and ointments and oils that I used to try and heal my painful nipples. The thing that makes it so hard, I think, is that once it starts to hurt and you really get a wound, Your baby is literally full force sucking on that thing every 2 hours. It's torture. So the best thing you can do is, of course, prevention. Try and get yourself a lactation consultant if it's, you know, affordable for you. Try and make sure you're getting a good latch, good positioning. Watch all the YouTube videos about it. I can make another video about this, but here are the creams that I used. The one I used most frequently was the Lancino Lanolin Nipple Cream. It was like the perfect thickness and consistency. It was so easy to apply. It really like coated the nipple to avoid rubbing against the breast pads. And it's safe to be in the baby's mouth, so you don't have to actually remove it if you're gonna be breastfeeding. I actually wasn't a fan of the pure lanolin types of cream. I know Medela makes one that I've tried. Medela is the popular, super great like breast pump and you know, all breast products brand. Like it's a great brand, but for me personally, I wasn't a huge fan of their pure lanolin breast cream. I think for me, pure lanolin is just too thick. It's really like hard to melt on your fingers. And when you already have a wound, you really want something that you're not gonna be pressing so hard on your nipple to apply. You just kind of want to be able to gently coat it. So for me, the pure lanolin just wasn't really great. Another one I use almost every day is from the Attitude brand. It's a Canadian all-natural non-toxic brand. There's for sure comparable brands in the US. It's an oil, but it's really liquidy, and I found it super soothing, very healing. I really loved it, and I still use it 8 months postpartum. I also tried the Earth Mama butter. Some people swear by this one. I saw so many YouTube videos about it. That's why I tried it. Personally, it wasn't my favorite. Again, I found it a little hard to apply. It's like quite thick. There's also like these little grains in them. Not grains, but more like kind of balls of the product because it solidifies. Those were a little awkward because you sort of had to melt them between your fingers, and to be honest, I just found it a bit annoying. But maybe purchase a very small one and see if you like it, because a lot of people really do enjoy this product, from what I've seen anyway on the internet. So this is my fifth and final tip. Don't buy too much of one cream before knowing what you're gonna need. After I gave birth, I told one of my girlfriends who was having a baby a couple weeks later, oh my God, buy all the nipple stuff, buy everything. It's horrible, buy it all, buy everything. Like, oh my gosh, you're gonna, like, breastfeeding is the worst. So I freaked her out essentially, and she ended up having zero problems with breastfeeding, which is amazing. But then also, like, what a waste of money for all these products that she bought. This leads into the 8th product, the Apno Cream, the doctor prescribed Apno Cream. This is a nipple cream for breastfeeding, but it deserves its own special little place on the list, separate from all others, because I really want to make sure you do not leave the hospital. Do not leave the hospital without a prescription for this cream. It's also called the Jack Newman cream. So yeah, if you really end up having cracked nipples, bleeding nipples like I did, this product is likely going to save your breastfeeding journey. You do need a prescription for it, so just remember to ask for it. You can't just purchase it at the pharmacy, at least, I mean, in Canada you can't. And also a pharmacist does have to prepare it. It's a mixture of different medications. There is mupirocin, which is an antibiotic. There is corticosteroids, which really helps with the swelling and the pain and the itchiness. And there is an antifungal also. It's amazing. And you can breastfeed with this on your nipples, so you don't have to wipe it off before you breastfeed your baby. And yeah, it's great. I promise it's not just because I'm a nurse that I'm saying that this is the best product. It just is. Ooh, okay, we're getting to the end. So 9th on the list are silverets. So silver is an antimicrobial, has antimicrobial properties, and it's very cooling on the skin. So what you do is, after feeding, you put a drop or two of breast milk in each silveret cup, and you place them on your nipple and it's held in place by your bra. The idea is that the silver, as well as the breast milk, which is said to have some healing properties also in the breast milk, are really going to soothe and relieve those hurting nipples. I really enjoyed this product, but again, another very expensive product. These can be, I think, like $70. I recommend to just, you know, think about it, have it on a list somewhere, and know that you can use it, but you don't necessarily need to purchase it before you give birth, because you may have a really great experience with breastfeeding. And so this is something you can order, you know, a couple weeks in if you're noticing that you're really struggling with breastfeeding. Finally on the list are the Freedom Mom Cooling Nipple Hydrogel Nipple Pads. So these have vitamin E in them. They're very soothing and cooling on your nipples. Again, soothing and cooling, it seems to be the theme of this video. I would put them on before going to bed, or like when I fed my daughter right before bed. That way I knew there was probably gonna be at least 3 to 4 hours that they were on before I had to take them off again to breastfeed. The one catch with this is that if you end up with a problem called vasospasms, which is essentially kind of like constriction of the blood vessels in your nipples, like spasms, vasospasms, spasms of your nipples, essentially. It gives you like electric shocks and pain, and you see like white blanching. Anyway, you could, you know, research that. But if you end up with that issue, I would really avoid this product, because putting cool things on your nipples are just gonna make it worse. There you have it. Those are my top 10. I think the overarching theme is that everyone is different. Everyone's recovery is going to be very different. Please don't overbuy or overspend in any of these categories. These are all things that, you know, have a few things, but then you can order these afterwards. Try to add a few to your baby registry. And honestly, like, something could work well for one person and not so much for another person. It's a lot of trial and error with this stuff, but except for the peri bottle. Go buy the peri bottle. Go buy it right now. Bye, everyone.